Russia's attacks on civilian infrastructure in Ukraine are usually being called terrorist attacks meant to break the will of the Ukrainian people. I think this is actually Putin unleashing the refugee weapon. Attacks on civilian infrastructure cannot or are highly unlikely to be meant to break the will of the Ukrainian people. It hasn't worked in the past, and it's unlikely and unreasonable why it should work this time, that the Ukrainians are just going to capitulate or seek peace if enough of their electricity power plants, enough of their freshwater supply devices or cleaning devices, etc., as long as their freshwater and electricity is impacted enough. I think the attacks are meant in two directions. The first direction is they are meant for the domestic audience within Russia, both in regards to the nationalists, to the general public, and to the ultra-nationalists when it comes to those who seek for war. With those attacks, he's demonstrating strength, and he's degrading the comfort of the Hochholz. I think that's more or less how they pronounce the derogatory terms for Ukrainians, which are then punished by daring to strike back in a war that Russia has unleashed. Those attacks are meant mostly to harm the civilian well-being and make them uncomfortable in front of the coming winter. Without water, without electricity, they are likely to have no other choice than fleeing. In a winter when the temperatures are dropping far below zero, there is no way the majority of the Ukrainians can stay within Ukraine under the current circumstances. If the water from the water pipes and the heating system hasn't been emptied in front of the winters, the accommodations of Ukrainians will even be impacted into spring and summer, as the water pipes can be expected to burst and thus have to be completely replaced and remodeled. Right now, there's already unpleasant consideration towards Ukrainian refugees in parts of Central and Western Europe. Everyone within Europe has heard the stories, the rumors, the claims that the Ukrainians, for instance, don't have to pay their parking fees, whereas the rest do. There are complaints on Facebook, on Twitter, about Ukrainians who dare flee with their luxury cars, like you're supposed to get rid of all your property before you cross a border in a time of war. There have been accusations of tourism towards the welfare systems within Central and Western Europe as well. If Russia's campaign is succeeding and progressing further, another 10 to 15 million Ukrainians might have no choice but to look for heated accommodations in the countries west of Ukraine. If those are coming, while there's an economic crisis unfolding, which might push millions into poverty and out of employment, this will cause social tensions that are massive. It might cause governments to be threatened. It might cause governments to seek for a peace or for something to work out with Russia, which would then reduce the help that Ukraine is receiving. If the Central and Western European countries do not just stop their own help towards Ukraine, but actually agree to no longer let help towards Ukraine pass through their territory, Ukraine's military capacity will be massively impacted and will be reduced significantly. The attempt to expulse parts of the own population or parts of the population of a country has worked in the past. Within Syria, both the Syrian government and the Russian forces have almost emptied parts of the country by terrorist attacks, by terror bombings towards the civilians there. Neither that event has caused any diplomatic repercussions, any serious repercussions towards Russia, nor will the terrorist attacks towards Ukraine. Russia does not expect to be punished for the war crimes it is committing within Ukraine, and thus the risk it is taking by trying such a campaign that also has at the same time a domestic reason and gives the Kremlin and the military the reason to show the domestic audience that they are still the all-powerful Russian military that can punish the Ukrainians however they want. that this is the secondary effect is already there, and if they don't succeed with the refugee weapon, they don't lose anything. If they succeed in the full extent that I have just given you as an idea, then they might win the war through those means. So Russia doesn't take any risk whatsoever. It just has additional options, and there is no reason for Russia to try it whatsoever. So in summary, I think the attacks are meant to pacify, meant to show something to the ultranationalist and nationalist communities within Ukraine, who are very unhappy with how the war progresses, how little the Russian military has achieved so far. And every time Ukrainians have some success, the Russians are striking back in this regard. The other effect is to start a huge wave of refugees flooding Western and Central Europe, and hopefully making governments, through the dissent within the population, make them step towards Russia to find some middle ground to allow Russia to have a diplomatic victory in Central and Western Europe that might even lead to a reduction of military aid towards Ukraine. That's it for now. I hope it was interesting to you. This channel is only possible because of the support from viewers like you. If you like to support the channel, you can do so by the means in the description. Thank you so much to everyone who's already enjoying the channel. If you want to support the channel in other means, you can do so by hitting the like button, and obviously it will be very interesting to think to see your discussions, whether you agree with me, whether you think this is actually the way Russia is attempting to influence the war in this regard, or whether you think that Russia might succeed with terror bombardments inside of Russia to force the Russian government to give in, while they only use conventional weapons against civilian infrastructure. You can support the channel with a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget the bell icon so you don't miss future videos, and if you want to help the channel grow, you can recommend it to friends and acquaintances. That's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.